Greetings guys, gals, non-binary pals, welcome back to the Amazing Plant Project. My name's Kate, and today we're diving into the world of manga and anime. Now, I've been at home for an extended period of time, like most of us have at this point, and I've been rediscovering series that I'd either forgotten I had or never really got around to reading, watching when I first got them. So, figured, being that this is a botany and ethnobotany channel, I'd introduce a new series I'm calling ethnobotany because it's ethnobotany and anime, or manga. So the first series that we're exploring here is Legal Drug, or Goho Drug, which literally translates to the lawful drugstore. And in the English translations, at least, it's the green drugstore that they're based out of for the series. So Legal Drug and its continuation, Drug and Drop, which I'll get into in a little bit, are from the Clamp Studios. Now, the original was serialized from like 2000 to 2003, just like the original for Drug and Drop was 2011, and it was picked up by Dark Horse in 2014. So, as of right now, unfortunately, the series is on indefinite hiatus, but I'm going to be going through what is extant so far. So, why is it on this channel instead of my Random Adventures in Things channel? Because on that one, links up in the iCard and down in the description if you want to check it out. There's a lot of art and exploration of things and random stuff, hence the name. However, in this series, there are so many botanical references and symbolism and all kinds of fun things that, like, I knew about just because it's legal drug, green drug, which is also a euphemism for cannabis, which, if you look at the front, is the symbol for the series everywhere on the armbands and everything. There's even more that I hadn't noticed the first couple of read-throughs that I did back in the day. So, I'm doing a 6-part kind of mini-series within the series for just this. So, this one is just the world framework, and then each of the individual books is going to have its own breakdown because there's individual plants that are treated as main characters for that subplot within a particular book in the continuity of the full storyline. So before I get more into it, I'm going to just read the series synopsis. When Kudo Katsuhaya collapsed in the snow one night on the verge of death, he is rescued by a mysterious young man, Himura Rikyo, who takes him back to a pharmacy named the Green Drugstore. Katsuhaya, apparently running from his past, takes up work at the Green Drugstore alongside Rikyo. He comments that although Rikyo rescued him, he really feels indebted to the store's owner, Kikai, whom he thanks for his current accommodation and job. While their day is quite simple, the boys are persuaded and in some cases practically forced by Kikai to take on strange extra jobs outside the store, which make use of their supernatural powers. Now, all of this, and getting back to the Cannabis operates as a framework for the storyline that we're working with here, all of the main characters seem to have an inherent ability that is kind of outside the realm of usual human capability, whether it's telekinesis or, in Himura's case, the ability to... And interestingly, the 4 main characters in this series actually appear in Clamp in Wonderland 2, which is the first time that Kakai and Saiga are seen animated, and we'll get into Saiga in a second. Kazuhaya and Rico were previously animated during a brief appearance in the Holic anime episode 6 and Holic Kai episode 13. Okay, so that's the setup, that's the baseline that we're working with here. So, who are the main characters? We've got Kuro Katsuhaya, who has the ability to read the histories of a person, place, thing by touching the said object. And sometimes in the course of a investigation, which we'll get into that later, but in the course of an investigation is sometimes possessed or acts as a medium for spirits who are trying to communicate something. Then we have Himura Rikyo, who is trying to find his sister who disappeared under very, very suspicious circumstances the year before, and kind of acts as a grounding point for Kuro, especially when he's in that alternate consciousness medium state. So he's the protector, basically, in the situation. Because if you're in that headspace of not really being fully conscious of physical reality, sometimes you need somebody to, like, get you out of it, or to just be stuck there for a while. And also, he can break pretty much anything by just touching it, which kind of goes along with being an anchor point for Kuro, because if there's a illusion or something, then he can break it, or at least limit potential harm from whatever the situation is. And a lot of times that manifests either metaphysically like that, or just physically breaking a lock so that they can get into a location and investigate it. Then we have Kekai, who is the owner-manager of the grain drugstore. And slight spoiler, so, forewarned. Most of this is probably going to be slightly spoilery, if nothing else, because it's going into symbolism and how it relates to the overarching storyline, so forewarnings. But Kekai is the owner of the green drugstore, the one who hands out the side missions, side quests, if you will, depending on the linguistics that you want to go with, to Kuro and Himura, and is also a precog, so possessing precognition. So he's able to see future events. A lot of times there's certain caveats on that, though, and from what I've seen, that's not been explained or delved into. It's just he has the gift of precognition, so therefore is better able to work with sending folks out to do stuff. And then we have Saiga, who is generally just kind of there. You usually see him sleeping in the back room or wherever, but he's kind of the research behind the events that unfold. He's the one that's looking up things and finding information and making sure that the other characters have whatever base information they need in order to at least attempt to do their assigned jobs. And the other two main characters who never really make an appearance, but they're there as reasons for the rest of the cast to continue doing what they're doing. So we've got Kuro Kai, who is Kazuhaya's twin sister, and Himura Tsukiko, who is Rikyo's older sister. Now, that's the cast. And there's other characters that come in and out of the story, but that is the main focus there. So Kazuhaya enters the storyline on like the first page where he's passed out in the snow and Rikyo finds him and brings him back to the green drugstore where he's been living and working while he's trying to find his sister. And you see the first kind of secondary botanical reference like right there, which I'll get into more when I'm talking about the first volume in the next video, but it's like in the shadow of a decorated pine tree, which is like implied that it's a Christmas tree because it's like the pine tree form and it's in the winter, and the pines are kind of associated with like longevity and things like that, so we'll get to that at a later point. But yeah, Rikyo finds Kazuhaya, brings him back, so that's the entry point for Kazuhaya into the green drugstore expanse, per se. But then, because it's all in the same universe and there's backstory things that I won't get into at the moment for that, might at a later date, but yeah, right now, not so much. He's already there, like, he's already in that universe, because that's the universe that exists for the characters there. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll put pictures around here, but each of the chapters in the series has a descriptor that's drug related. Each volume has the imagery. It's there. And there's cannabis references in the cover art, in the chapter titles, like the very liminality of the storyline. Everything exists in a universe that's kind of, it's reality, but it's slightly off, which is where they get into the paranormal and the different characters having particular abilities, and they run into spirits and out-of-body experiences and demons and angels, and it's a thing. It's all encompassing there. And it's interesting too, because coming from someone in California where we've had an ongoing discussion of whether or not cannabis should be legal, or if it should be legal for only medicinal use or for medicinal and recreational use, that whole thing. From what I've heard, at least, in Japan, cannabis is treated with the same kind of stigma and problematic nature and descriptors as heroin and cocaine, because it's a drug, even though it's something that you can grow out of the ground and it's there. It does its thing and exists. So it's interesting that it's the lawful drugstore and legal drug, and that's the imagery that they picked. So in that framework, the legal drug universe explores the liminality inherent to paranormal experience. And each chapter is introduced by a notice about drug use, an image of a green pill, a cannabis leaf, illustrating how well other themes exist in this universe. The plant's obvious, notorious ability to alter reality when consumed or generally utilized is emphasized more heavily. That being said, it's never addressed directly, nor are the characters ever high. They're just sleepy, or they're knocked out after a fight, or they're drunk. However, keeping this particular plant front and center keeps the viewer in the kind of liminal headspace necessary to see the rest of the storyline from that kind of altered perspective. You can read it as just a paranormal suspense drama, and that works fine. But if you come at it from the altered psychology, then it adds another layer altogether. Okay, so the chapter titles that I'm referring to in here, they reuse them and stuff, but what we've got in the books, it's daily use of the drug may cause poisoning. Daily use of the drug may be hazardous. And those are from the original legal drug series. And it's the implication that there might be an issue. There might be something that you need to watch out for, but just, be aware that it's a thing that could happen. Be aware of your own responses to your surrounding environment. There's a possibility that something could be a bit off. And then at the end of book 1, there's a side story called It's a Hallucination, where all the characters are slightly more off than they would be already, which I'll get into when I go through this one itself, but that's part of the framework built into the plot. And then when you get to the Drug and Drop series, that's the later 2 books, because there's 5 in the entire compendium right now, but the later 2 don't have may in the chapter titles anymore. It's daily use of the drug causes poisoning. Like, if you do this, you will have a severe adverse reaction. And that goes into, as the plot lines, because there's a couple of different ones, but as the plot is revealed and the story kind of coalesces into the reality or altered lack of reality that exists within this universe, the possibility of escaping unscathed is removed for the characters, and to a lesser extent for the viewer. And all the characters are involved now by that point. Regardless of the outcome, there will be negative impacts felt, even if there are positive outcomes too. And going further into that, the secondary title for Drug and Drop is A Drugstore with Medicine and Danger, which kind of goes along with the medicinal plants that are also sometimes seen as poisons or toxic botanicals, depending on how they're used and the concentrations that they're used in, and the repetitive nature that some plant materials are consumed. So essentially, in order to do the job that they do, because both Kazahaya and Rico work out of the drugstore, and both do their usual stocking shelves, usual mundane offloading merchandise, helping customers, that sort of thing. But they also go on side jobs to help recover lost items or release another character from a particular situation that they find themselves in. So essentially, in order to do their job, both Kuro Kazahaya and Himura Rikyo have to be immersed in this altered state of consciousness. Rikyo acts as kind of a sentry for Kazahaya to make sure that he's okay and stable enough to do what he needs to do, most of the time grudgingly. But there's also a BL or boys love aspect to it, which the series ended before it actually picked up and became anything, which I find kind of annoying. But the series itself is still really well done. And in order to do this job that they both have, Kazahaya has to go into an altered mental state in order to access any latent information. And Rikyo is pretty sure that unlocking latent information in his own past would help find his sister, which is ultimately what he wants to do. That's one of the main things that is driving his character. And there's been instances where things that make no sense and don't have any kind of continuity are seen from the multiple perspectives of Rico and Kazuhaya and somehow kind of correlate and end up making sense, which the whole two heads are better than one situation, you know? And while each individual volume has its own storyline, each chapter remains housed in a cannabis-laden framework that makes things realistic but just slightly off. And it's intriguing and involves the reader in the story, which most mystery, suspense, thriller, psychological drama series tend to do. But even though the series remains unfinished at this point, and because it's on an indeterminate hiatus and Clamp has a lot of other projects that they're working on, it's probably going to remain unfinished, at least for the foreseeable future. But even so, I'd say it's definitely worth a read, and I'll put affiliate links to where you can find it on Amazon, and a, at present, not affiliate link for the legal drug part of the series on Bookwalker. They don't have drug and drop as yet, as far as I know, but I'll have on Amazon for that too. So there is that if you would like to find your own copies. I know Amazon has digital and physical copies. Bookwalker has digital copies, but I'll be exploring the volumes in depth from a botanical perspective over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be other stuff thrown in. There's more of the Botany bites and a few other things that will be breaking up the continuity of the legal drug universe for you. Also, I've got links to the Patreon and the blog and everything down in the description, along with links to my other channel where I do a lot of art and fandom art piece sort of things, occasional story times and what have you. If you'd like the script for this, because I'll have a kind of a write-up for each of the episodes on the blog, but if you would like the script itself, I'll have that as part of one of the perks on the Patreon as an additional thing for patrons only. So there we go. Right now everything is accessible under the $1 mark, but there is that. I hope you're all having a good, safe day. We're all kind of in a bit of a pickle at the moment with that. So till next time, if you want to keep up with the series and anything else that I happen to do, there's a lot of science stuff. I'm going to start as of Thursday, like next Thursday. So by next Thursday, I'm going to be doing a weekly series synopsis and like botanical lesson out of this guy as a live stream. Now, this is my official botany textbook from when I was going through university, but I'll have a link to this in the description too. It would be an Amazon affiliate link, but I have found this exact one because I looked up the ISBN. I found this exact one on Amazon for like $15 to $30 if you wanted to follow along with this particular edition. Now, I've had this one for 8 years. I think this particular edition came out in 2008, so there's probably been some additions, but at the end of the day, it's science, and a lot of it is how cells work, and that doesn't really change. So, there's that. A Biology of Plants. This is the 7th edition. I think it's on the 11th maybe. But this one's a pretty good one. And we're gonna be doing that as live streams, and the streams will be, alright, so, because the camera died, we're switching to the phone for the outro, so I apologize for any shaky whateverness. I'll put a notice out on Twitter and Instagram as we get closer to that, so if you want to follow me on either both of those and Facebook, all the links are in the description down below, and it's ethnobotany for both Instagram and Facebook. Instagram and Twitter. For Facebook, it's just The Amazing Plant Project, same as here. And yeah, if you have any particular plant-related questions or suggestions for future episodes like this, leave them in the comments down below. I'm looking for future content ideas. There's a few other ones. But being that it's 420, man, I figured I might as well do this one right about now. So there we go. That being said, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one. If you want to be sure that you're notified when I actually upload stuff, hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon next to it. Until then, I will see you later. Have a good one, everybody. Bye. He is recused. He is recused.